Easter week in Adelaide, Easter week in Australia. I hope it's been a good week so far, and it's going to go, well, even better as we head to the long weekend. Oh, there's a small Jack Russell. Hey, Missy, do you want to come and say hello? Missy? You want to come and say hello? Why not? Come and say hello. So, this is Missy, everybody. This is a lovely Jack Russell. Say hello. Oh, yes. You're a good girl. You're a very good girl. You're a bit of a camera hog, aren't you? Aren't they dear, lovely creatures? Loving. You know, Pete's got this beautiful dog, Katie. She's a sheepdog, and she's border collie, and she is the most loving dog. And we've got Missy, and she's loving. You know, it's just sort of what do you call it? Unconditional love that they give you. There we go. You hop down. That's the way. She's off. Quick visit. And I've quite forgotten where I was. Because we don't edit this program. If something goes wrong, it goes wrong, and we just get on with it. I remember I was talking to you yesterday about the idea of this closing down special schools. And it's something I feel strongly about, because really you have to do the best you can in society for everyone who may indeed have special needs. And I got to thinking after doing yesterday's show about sheltered workshops. This is another contentious area, which indeed was touched upon by this Royal Commission into the disabled. This is where disabled people find opportunity where otherwise they would be nothing. I've heard all the criticism about the fact that particularly intellectually disabled people work for very small salaries. Slave labour, I hear people say. Slave labour. But giving somebody with an intellectual disability, or a disability of any kind, the dignity of work, and keep in mind, please, that I believe we are all disabled in some way. I don't think there's ever been a perfect individual, except for perhaps Jesus Christ, and look what we did to him. But everyone's fallible, no one is perfect. But we are all entitled to the dignity of work. The discipline and the pride of having your own pay packet. I think that outweighs just about everything else, but believe me, there will be people who will try and get rid of so-called sheltered workshops. It's something we could maybe talk about. Today's Thursday, so we're not at the dining room table tomorrow, Friday, Good Friday, but Friday week, perhaps that's something we can talk about. Les Ellicus will be with us. Cosy from South Aussie is going to be with us. Laurie, a very frequent caller to my old radio show on 5AA, is going to ring in. He rings in regularly. John and Maria, and I'd love you to join us. But somebody said to me, Jeremy, would you not... Oh, look. Yeah. Don't rattle off the phone number because we can't get it down. I'll give it to you very slowly right now. This is the phone. And I can only take one call at a time, which is a bit of a disadvantage, but we're working on technologically fixing that. But it's 0491 65 68 60. Very easy number to remember. I'd love you to call, because the more calls we get, the better. Now, manufacturing industry in Australia is reporting this week that new orders are down. In fact, it is worse than during the financial crisis, which is saying something, because we almost came to a standstill. Orders are way, way down. Markets are softening. This has to be a reflection of, or a result of, the current economic policy. Higher interest rates are there to generate a general slowdown in the economy, which is in fact exactly what the doctor ordered. It's what had to be done. What we need now, so we don't overshoot the runway, that is some fine-tuning. And interest rate adjustments are certainly not fine-tuning, more like a blunt instrument. But what the media doesn't understand is that, yes, orders will be down on this time last year because we are buying less. The RBA, Reserve Bank of Australia, should be saying, mission accomplished. And we should get a pat on the back for a job well done. But you know, the funny thing is the media has this catastrophizing stuff, shock horror stuff. This is not bad news. But there's nobody, it seems to me, when I watch the news, who interprets things in a way that is accurately reflecting the current situation. Speaking of such things, the government is preparing its case to be considered by Fair Work Australia for an increase in what we used to call the basic wage, now called the minimum wage. Don't know what the difference is. 1 year ago, Fair Work Australia decided on a 5.75% increase in that minimum wage. So at the moment it's $23.23 an hour, which equates to about $43,000 a year. Now, this time around, the government wants, what can I call it? It wants cost of living relief, which would indicate, because of inflation, an increase of 4%. The ACTU wants a 5% increase. The employer groups say no, 2% is max. Who's right? Let me say this. The government is trying to drive with one foot on the brake and the other on the accelerator, trying to compensate the low paid for inflation is fine. But it is stupid to say that while at the same time fueling inflation. It's a classic dog chasing its tail. What? Okay, so you get a bit more in your pay packet and you lose it at the checkout. Bang, gone. The government should have some sort of statesman-like opinion that it can enunciate on matters like this. The other side of all of this is employment. Every pay rise could be another man's job. It's pressure on the bottom line. We shouldn't kill the goose that lays the golden egg. It hasn't happened quite so much here in Adelaide, as far as I've been able to see anyway, but it's a retail trend. You could even say a revolution that can't be ignored. I'm talking about vending machines. Vending machines. No staff needed. No bricks and mortar shops. Operates 24/7. No overtime, no salaries, no strikes, no unions. You just have to keep the machine stocked and humming along. It is amazing what they can put in vending machines. It's amazing what they do put in vending machines. Everything you can probably think of, and a few things that you probably wouldn't want to think of. If we do away with those entry-level retail jobs, young people will have a big problem, and we will as a society as well. Do we really want to go down this road? Automated retail arcades or kiosks open 24 hours a day, no employees? Gee whiz. I'm glad I'm the age I am, because it looks like that's going to be the trend. And while we're trying to get rid of the bricks and mortar shops, it doesn't stop there. Cash. Cash is also on the hit list. You know, 10 years ago, 78% of all transactions were conducted in cash. Today, what do you think, Pete?
90% or 10% cash?
13%.
13, yeah.
10 years ago, 78% of all transactions in cash. Today, it's less than 13%. Now, I had to think about this a lot. But this is why we should pay cash for everything. Money, you know, banknotes, folding stuff, green stuff, instead of a card. And we all know that's getting more and more difficult. But let's say I have got a $50 banknote in my pocket. I'm going to a restaurant and I'm paying for dinner with it. The restaurant owner uses the bill, the $50 note, to pay for, let's say, the laundry. The laundry owner then uses the bill, the money, to pay his barber. The barber will then use the bill for, I don't know what, shopping, whatever. After an unlimited number of exchanges, that $50 note will still be worth $50, which has fulfilled its purpose for everyone who's handled it, for everyone who's used it for payment or purchase. But the bank has missed out on every bit of the journey. Every single cash payment or transaction. But going back to the beginning, if the restaurant or the restaurateur and his client were paying digitally, let's say via credit card, the bank fees for that original transaction, that $50 transaction in the restaurant, would be reduced by 3%. That's around $1.50. Again and again and again with every transaction involving that money. $1.50 for, say, 30 transactions, all from that initial $50. And what is left? Only $5. True. The remaining $45 has become income for the banks. Fee for service. Thanks to all those digital transactions. Fees charged every step along the digital way. You see, cash holds its value. Use it or lose it. Folks, once it's gone, we won't get it back ever again. The other thing that has happened is pretty much the end of tipping. People don't tip anymore. And that affects particularly young people.
Buskers.
Buskers, indeed. You haven't gone down the track of having an FPOS thing.
I have got one.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
Do people actually, while you're busking, do people come up?
No, they didn't. So it was a
swipe
waste of time. But the last buskers I've seen, they have the, you know, those squares. All those little dot things, QR codes.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Buskers are using those now.
Okay. It's the modern world, God help us. God help us. And then on the other side of all of this is the armoured vehicle business, which is in the middle of an enormous crisis. This crisis of confidence in cash is so serious that the ACCC agreed to a meeting with all of the banks, because you're not allowed to collude with your competitors, but they had to do something about moving cash around the country. And the people who move the cash around the country are going broke. Isn't that amazing? You've got a van with millions of dollars in the back of the van, and you're going broke. I think there's something terribly ironic about that. A crisis in cash. Dear, oh dear. Well, the vehicles that transfer cash around the country can't make a living out of it. It looks pretty grim, but there was a meeting, I think it was today, between the banks and Lindsay Fox, who has Armaguard, and I think the other company was called Prosecure. Now these were very lucrative businesses that are now literally going broke because cash is not being moved around the country anymore. Well, maybe we can talk about that round the dining room table come Friday week. You know, of course, cheques, speaking of money, are on the way out. I rely on cheques. I think that the cheque was, since I had a cheque account when I was a kid. I was a teenager and I had a cheque account. Very proud of having a cheque account. So cheques are on the way out. Australia Post say that letters are unsustainable. Their future is parcels, not letters. What's next? Australia Post has announced that mail deliveries will be made every second day. Stamps will be more expensive. Now, help me with this. Why, if you're in trouble, would you offer less service and charge more for it? I mean, there should be an obligation to maintain affordable daily mail deliveries. An obligation. I can remember when mail was delivered even on a Saturday. And of course, during the week, you got a morning delivery and an afternoon delivery. How can Australia Post, with a monopoly, a great network, great people, some of the best real estate in the country, most of which, sadly, I think they've sold. I mean, where did that money go? Can you imagine how much the Sydney GPO and the Melbourne GPO and the Adelaide GPO would be worth? They are not post offices anymore. I think most were sold to hotel operators. Anyway, they say they will modernise Australia Post. Is it modern to halve your service and charge more for less? I don't get it. Traffic chaos in Sydney and Melbourne. Man-made, of course. Extinction Rebellion with their myth-made madness. Doesn't matter how diligent the police are, the courts have got to get tough. I told you the story. In fact, I told you last Friday about this woman who had jammed up the traffic in Melbourne, was put in jail, appealed to the court, and the judge let her out. Her excuse or her plea was that she had to front an exhibition, not an exhibition, a demonstration the following day. I mean, that would be the reason I would keep her in the slammer. But this judge let her out. Oh, you've got an obligation to go and run that demonstration. Oh, of course. Here you go. That sort of crap has got to stop. The courts have got to get tough. And when they glue themselves to the ground or the wall or the showroom floor, leave them there. Now, that's what they did in, I think it was the BMW showroom in Hamburg or Frankfurt. It was a BMW showroom in Germany, and they literally just left them there. They turned off the air conditioning, they just left them stuck on the floor, closed the place up, turned out the lights, and went home. Perfect. Speaking of motor cars, have I got time? Maybe quickly. I am amazed that this is the only media, that Peter Clayton and I and all my guests around the dining room table, this is the only media that is talking about EVs in the context of today. The EV, electric vehicle con. Talking about just exactly what it is. A subliminal campaign is rolling along telling us how successful EVs are, how popular they are. So one report that said 50% of the cars in Australia sold are EVs. Rubbish. It's less than 8%. They are not popular. They are not selling. Despite all the hype, they are, well, just look at it off the top of my head. They are heavier, much heavier than a conventional car. Harder on the tyres, so you wear those out faster. Harder on the roads. Expensive to insure, sometimes impossible. Expensive to repair, again, sometimes impossible. A fire hazard, and of dubious advantage to the environment. When you drive home and you put your EV on the charger, excepting it could burn your house down, of course, you plug it in, leaving it there to recharge using some of the most expensive electricity in the world, which of course is mostly produced by fossil fuels. And when you want to get rid of the vehicle, realizing a new battery is going to cost you $50,000, get set to take a bath. No resale value. Why don't you hear these things anywhere but here? I don't know. I don't profess to know. I'm just disturbed that the media is so easily led, manipulated. Don't know what's going on, to be honest with you. It is the 28th. Yeah. Oh yes, just on the subject of EVs, if I've got another brief second, this is news, this is hot. Utes, SUVs face weaker pollution caps as Albanese's government waters down fuel efficiency standards. Now this is the fuel efficiency standards, make no mistake. This was a way that the Albanese government came up with to put pressure on the big motor car companies to sell more electric vehicles. They'd be allowed to go on selling the internal combustion cars providing they sell more. So they're more electric vehicles. So they are trying, this government, trying desperately to skew the market in a way that popular opinion is not in favour of. Think about it. Are you prepared to be manipulated like that? I'm not. After copping fierce criticism from some vehicle manufacturers, the Albanese government has made a huge call on new cars. Motor Traders Association of Australia, Matthew Hobbs, CEO, warns Labor's new emission policy will change what car companies offer the Australian community, because that's what they did it for. They want more and more electric cars, even though clearly, demonstrably, we do not want those vehicles. They're prepared to lie and scheme and manipulate their way to what they see is a just end. I don't see it that way. Quickly, a few dates, and then I wish you a very happy Easter. A happy and a holy Easter. Pope Francis becomes the first pope to wash the feet of women. 2013. It's a bit strange, isn't it? What was wrong with washing the feet of women? It's weird. Must be traditional or something. Neville Bonner, I like Neville Bonner, the first Indigenous Australian to become a Member of Parliament of Australia. Born in New South Wales. He died in 1999, born in 1922. I used to talk to him regularly. He was a great guy. Liked him immensely. Nathaniel Briggs. He patented the washing machine. Where would we be, Pete, without the washing machine?
Scrubbing board, wouldn't it?
Well, it would have been the scrubbing board, or you'd have had that plunger thing where you stuck all the things in the copper and you... Nathaniel Briggs, 1797, he invented the first washing machine, which was probably one of the plunger thing, I don't know. Michael Parkinson, he was born 1935, English broadcaster, talk show host, born in 1935. First seaplane takes off from the water around, Martinique. 1910, the first seaplane took off. Peter Ustinov, British actor, author, journalist, comedian, broadcaster. Death on the Nile, Logan's Run, Billy Budd. He dies of heart failure at 82, but he was, he died on this day in 2004. The Louvre opens to the public. 1794, Tony Barber, Australian television personality, was born in England in 1940. I see him doing a few ads these days. Microfilm, the first microfilm device was introduced in 1922. Dirk Bogarde, a British writer and actor, Death in Venice, The Servant. And Reba McEntire. You like Reba McEntire?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Reba McEntire, American country singer. Can't even get the blues. Consider me gone. Born Oklahoma, 1955. Love you, Reba. Love your work. Thank you so much for being with us in the Court of Public Opinion. Now, we will be back on Tuesday. Have a wonderful, happy, safe Easter. And we'll be back with the dining room table live streaming jeremycordeaux.com on tomorrow week. Thank you so much. Drive carefully, okay? Pete, you staying home for Easter?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. Believe in yourself. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton and I wish you a very happy Easter. Bye for now.